Hey y'all, welcome to Cooking with Miss Holt. I'm a former high school home ec teacher and I love cooking with my students, and now I enjoy cooking with you all. Today we're going to talk about several things, mainly peach pound cake. I live in Georgia and it is peach season here, and we've had great peaches all summer long. I know we had a hard freeze last winter and it sort of cut into our peach crop a good bit, but we still have had some. And I picked up some really pretty peaches at Publix this morning. And so we are gonna make a peach pound cake. I'm gonna tell you where the recipe is coming from. I taught high school for a long, long time, and I retired from that a couple of years ago, but it's always stuck in my mind how difficult it was for students to gather resources to go to college, to gather scholarship money, tuition money. It's just expensive. It's just really expensive. So last fall, I wrote a cookbook to sell locally here in our town for the sole purpose of raising money for scholarships. And this is it. And it's called Cooking for a Cause. And we did give out this past May, this is August, so in May, I gave out, I think, a total of 4 scholarships. We did several in the town where I live at different high schools, various high schools, and we are planning on doing it again next year. So the cookbooks came in right maybe 3 days before Christmas, so we kind of got started late last year, but I still managed to give out, I think, a total of 4 college scholarships at local high schools. So anyway, my husband and I have a friend named Matt who goes to our church, and when Matt heard what I was doing, he gave me his grandmother's recipe for peach pound cake to put in the cookbook. And this is it. Her name is Mrs. Marie McMichael, and this is her pound cake recipe. And I have had this pound cake actually, and I know other people have made it, but I've had it and I've made it, and it's wonderful, and we're going to make it here today. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get started. Now I will tell you about my pan. People always ask what kind of cake pans I like. Well, there's several different brands depending on what type I'm going to use, but for pound cakes, for 2 pans, I like Nordic ware, and that's what you see here. And it's I've got it buttered and floured. I just use my butter wrappers that I've got in my bowl, which you'll see just in a minute. But I buttered it, and I just took about a tablespoon of flour, and I floured it. And you need to do that over the sink because it'll get flour everywhere. And then I order these things called parchment cake rounds. I think that's what it's called, parchment paper rounds from Amazon. And I'll put the link in the comments. I think I pay maybe $7 maybe for a pack of 50. Don't quote me on that right now, but I think it's about $7 for 50. And some of them are solid for just regular layer cakes, and then some of them come pre-cut like this. And all you do is you just drop that in the bottom of your pan like that, and I say it's insurance. It's just insurance to make sure that it doesn't stick. And I have made those homemade with parchment paper. This is so much easier. It's worth every penny. I've been buying them, I don't know, probably 10 years conservatively, I would say. And it's just some of the best money that I've ever spent, pennies, but it's good insurance after all of your labor and time you've got into this. So let's get started here. All right, I'm going to turn you down so you can see. I have 2 sticks of salted, softened butter, and I usually use Challenge. I like Challenge butter. And if I could just tell you one thing about cake making to remember about all cakes, it's to have your butter, eggs, and your dairy, whether it's cream, sour cream, and this calls for sour cream, and I've got it room temperature too, but you need to have all your butter, eggs, and dairy room temperature. That's absolutely 100% critical. It will make the biggest difference, and the cake will not rise with cold ingredients, not as well as it has with room temperature, because I've done it both ways and compared it. But anyway, so in this bowl, I have 3 cups of sugar, 2 sticks of softened butter and salted butter, and I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of almond extract. So if you haven't bought almond, that's that. And you need to make sure, if you're going to give this as a gift, to make sure nobody has nut allergies, because it does have almond extract in it. And then, I think I've said this before, but I buy my vanilla at Costco. If you bake a lot, I don't know about Sam's Club, they probably have something similar, but there's no comparison. Vanilla is so expensive in the grocery store, and this is pure vanilla. It's not imitation, and I love this. I go through so much that this is really handy. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cream this, and to cream it just means that we beat it until it's smooth. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll be right back so you don't have to listen to all that. Okay, I've got that beaten up, and you can see what it's supposed to look like right there. It's just sort of crumbly right now. In another bowl over here, I have 6 eggs, and again, they need to be room temperature. And the only leavener, which means the only thing to make this cake rise, is it's got a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And usually pound cakes don't call for any leavener at all. So this recipe is unusual in that fact. But normally in a pound cake, and by the way, a pound cake is called a pound cake because when pound cakes originated, it called for a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, pound of eggs, pound of flour, so on and so forth. But anyway, so eggs are the only thing that's going to make it rise. So what you want to do is you want to add these one at a time, and you want to beat them really well. So I'm going to do that right now, and then I'll come back just in a second. Okay, we've got that beaten up now. We got the 6 eggs beat into our butter, sugar, and extracts. This is a half a cup of sour cream, and I would say get a good quality of sour cream, and it's room temperature. So I'm just gonna scrape that out with my little tiny spatula that I love so much. I'm gonna beat this in. Okay, we have that mixed in now. And next, what I have here is I'm using White Lily all-purpose flour, and I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/2 a teaspoon of baking soda. Not baking powder, but baking soda in the little box right there. So let me just push this out of the way. We're gonna put our flour in here, our soda and our salt. Now again, as I always say in all my videos, when you have something with flour in it, whether it's brownies or cake or whatever, just stir it up a little bit before you put the mixture on it. That just keeps it from flying all over your kitchen and all over you, and sometimes you can't even see it until the next day, and you'll realize you got a little coating of flour all over the place. I'm gonna mix this, and then I'll come right back so you don't have to listen through the mixer. Okay, we've got our flour, soda, and salt mixed in, and you can kind of see, makes little wavy lines there once it's mixed in. You can just kind of see it's really creamy there. So let me just clean the bowl a little bit. Stir that in just to make sure we've got it all. Okay, now for the peaches. And what I have right here is 2 cups of chopped peaches, and that's what it calls for. This was, you can kind of see the size of my peach right there. It took about 2 to 2.5 of these size peaches, and you can kind of see how big that is in my hand right there. But I've just got those chopped up fairly small. And we're just gonna stir those in by hand, because if we put the mixer on it, I'm afraid pieces of peaches will kind of get caught up in our blades. So we're just gonna stir that in, just like that. This smells so good. I wish I could smell it. Peaches smell so good here in Georgia in the summertime. There's just no other smell like that. Okay. Once we get that stirred in, let me turn you back up here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this batter into my buttered and floured pan, and then I'm gonna bake it on 325 for about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes, depending on your oven. So mine usually takes somewhere between an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Also, I will tell you, if anyone is interested in purchasing one of these cookbooks, and if you saw my chicken pot pie recipe, it's in here. It's in here as well. My brownie recipe that I did recently is not in here, and neither is my chocolate chip cookie recipe. But if you purchase this cookbook, I'm going to type those out, and I'm going to just, run a copy, and I'm going to include it. So you'll end up getting that in here too. But there's over 180 recipes, and it's $20 plus $4.50 shipping. So if you just want to message me, and you can Venmo me and all of that if you're interested in doing that. But what it does is it supports scholarships, high school scholarships, because I taught high school for a long, long time, close to 20 years. And it's just something that's close to my heart. And anyway, I will put this in the oven, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like in a little bit. Okay, y'all, our cake is out of the oven, and this is the peach pound cake that we just made, and it just came out. You notice I put it on a cooling rack so it won't sweat on the bottom and get soggy. Now, I will tell you too, if you don't have a cooling rack handy, what I have done in the past is I've turned a muffin tin upside down and cooled it on that. Now, obviously, it's not going to get the kind of airflow that it would on a cooling rack, but you know what? It's better than sitting on a counter or sitting on a towel, which is going to make it sweat and make it soggy on the bottom. So let it cool, and then I'll come back in a little bit, and I'm going to make a glaze for it, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, I took it out of the pan, and I've got it on a cake stand here, and now I'm going to make some glaze for it. Okay, y'all, here's our cake all out of the oven and glazed. And the glaze is just about 1.5 cups of powdered sugar and 2 or 3 tablespoons of water, just enough to get the consistency of a glaze. And you can either add 1/4 teaspoon of almond flavoring or vanilla. Either one is fine. And you just pour it over once your cake is cooled. Make sure that it's completely cool. But anyway, this is the peach pound cake from my cookbook, Cooking for a Cause, to benefit high school scholarships. And if you're interested in that, you can just message me, and I will tell you how to get it. It's I think it's 186 recipes, and it's $20 plus $4.50 shipping and handling. But here we go. Thank you so much for joining me.